You have a couple of options for the sketchbook assignment that we're working on related to color harmonies and optical color. The first one that I'm going to explain in a little bit more detail is really a cheat. It's allowing you to kind of double dip into some of the work that you're already doing for the grid-based self-portrait and just slowing down long enough to document what you're doing and put a name to some of the color harmonies that you're going to be working with. The second option is more work, but you don't have to paint squares, because some of you by this point are so sick of squares. We're going to spend some time talking about the first option, and what you're going to do is essentially divide up an 8x10 canvas like this. You're going to have 4 sections, each of which will have a large 4-inch square and then 4 smaller squares below it. Essentially, we're going to be creating color harmonies based on that. In the first area on the upper right-hand corner, you're going to mix the local color for some aspect of your source photo that has a wide range of colors but is still monochromatic. So all of the colors in your jacket, or all the reds on your hoodie, or whatever it is, but they're all still within one hue category. So if I were Catherine Oppie, and this was my self-portrait that I was working on, I might notice that though there was a lot of variation in the green, there is only green in that background, whereas in the flesh tones, there's more of an analogous color harmony. So what I can do is then choose to mix those colors. These are colors that I have to mix anyway to fill in the background of my grid-based self-portrait, but I'm going to go ahead and look for a variety of them. I'll fill in the dominant local color in the big block and then show a range of the color variation within that monochromatic element within my grid-based self-portrait source photo. So we've got the highlights, the darks, maybe it gets a little warmer, maybe it gets a little lower in intensity, but it's still all, in this case, green. They're all going to fit in that one hue category. So I'm going to create a monochromatic color harmony using the paint that I have to mix anyway for my grid-based self-portrait. For the second area, you're going to find a color harmony that is an analogous group of colors, and probably you're going to use your skin tone, because hopefully you have a source photo that has a range of possible variations within the skin tone. So if I was Zenaida Serebriakova, her self-portrait at the dressing table features actually kind of a lot of different colors in the flesh tone. That's one of the ways that we can tell that she's being really sensitive to the optical color variation in that reflection. You likely are going to have more than an analogous color harmony's worth of potential flesh tones in your source photo. So one of the things that you're going to have to do is narrow it down to make sure that you aren't choosing something that would fall outside of an analogous color harmony. For instance, we've got this, which is pretty much a purple, so we wouldn't be able to include that color and some of these yellows, because then we are no longer analogous. We're going to have complements in there, and we would be going too far. So I might choose these. We still have an analogous color harmony. I've got reds, I've got oranges, I've got yellows, but they're all based on colors that I have to mix anyway for my grid-based self-portrait. I'm creating these colors, but I'm just taking the extra time to document that they are part of an analogous color harmony on my chart. So that's what we're going to do in the upper left-hand portion. In the lower left-hand portion, you have to analyze those colors that you used in your analogous color scheme, and we're going to invert them. If I look at the flesh tones that I've mixed, first I have to decide, okay, well, what hue category is this? And I would say it's a really low intensity orange. If it's a really low intensity orange, then the opposite, the invert of that, is going to be a blue. If it's a low intensity red, then the invert would be a green. If it's a low intensity yellow, then the invert would be a purple. But since I'm inverting, I also want to change not only the temperature, the hue category, but I also want to change the intensity and the value. So a light value will turn into a dark value, and a low intensity will turn into a high intensity. So essentially, your job is to analyze that color and think about how to invert it across all three properties of color: temperature, intensity, and value. And that's what's going to happen in the lower left-hand side of this. The fourth area on your chart, you get to do whatever you want. So you're going to start with an arbitrary color. Just mix a color, any color you want. What's your favorite color? And then I want you to create a color harmony that makes use of that first color that you're using in the larger area, and then other hue categories as appropriate. Choose something other than monochromatic, choose something other than analogous. And you can see that we've got a complementary color harmony chosen by this student, and we have 3 blues and 2 oranges, so that she's created a total of 5 colors within those 2 hue categories. Over here, somebody else likes blue, and they created a triadic color harmony, or at least they intended to, where we've got a blue, a red, and a yellow. I think you could make an argument that that's not yellow anymore, and so therefore she doesn't have the color harmony that she thinks she does, which is too bad. But what you're going to do is choose a color harmony and let me know which one you're going for, so that we know if you're trying to create a split complement or a tetradic or whatever it is that you're up to. Something other than monochromatic, something other than analogous, but you get to make up the colors. They don't have to be based on anything from your source photo for the grid-based self-portrait. If you are so sick of squares that you could not possibly make another chart, then look in the big plastic bins that are under the sink, and we've got some Easter eggs and paper plates, and you can create an optical color project where you create an analogous color harmony, choose eggs and plates, where the colors match up to create an analogous color harmony, and really pay attention to how to create optical color. Why are we using eggs? Because they're round. So when you shine a light on them, they're going to show a lot of variation in the color. You won't be able to have just the local color. You have to think about how the lights and the darks are changing. Also, you're going to have at least a little bit of space. So the front of the plate might look different than the back of the plate. And then because they're all plastic, they're going to reflect on each other. And so you'll have optical color in the reflections. Make sure that you are still choosing to create a color harmony that is an analogous color harmony. Part of the reason for that is so it'll look good together. Part of the reason for that is it's actually going to be a lot easier for you to blend your color if you have an analogous color harmony. And part of the reason for that is that you're going to demonstrate that you know what an analogous color harmony is, which sadly this person does not, because you can see that they have both purple, blue, and that sort of orangey, yellowy pink in the background. And if it's yellow, then it's a complement for the violet. And if it's orange, then it's a complement for the blue. So we can't really use that back egg, which is too bad, because this person has done a really good job of paying attention to the optical color of how the light bounces around on these forms to create a lot of variation besides just the local color. So you're going to choose variation, but it's still going to stay within an analogous color harmony.